Hey guys, I'm Pixel Dan, and this is a review of the ThunderCats Classic Lion-O action figure from Mattel. That's right, Lion-O is finally here. He is starting to show up in mailboxes. I finally got mine. I've been really anxious to check this figure out, so let's jump right in. First things first, this is the shipper box that we're going to see the new ThunderCats action figures from Mattel coming inside of. You can see it's got a nice black and white motif all the way around the box, with the front kind of being a straight black with a ThunderCats logo and the figure's name right there on the front in white. On one side, we've got some really cool artwork of the Cat Slayer, while on the right side, we've got some cool artwork of Lion-O. And then it's just straight black on the back of the box. So let's go ahead and pull the figure package outside of the shipper box here, so we can get a good look at the actual box here. And as you can see, there's some really great colors going on here. So here is a look at the action figure packaging. You can see it's a nice window box that fully showcases our figure within. I really love the bright red in the background there. It really makes the figure in front of it pop. Really interesting design here too. You can see this artwork of Lion-O at the bottom doing sight beyond sight. And then the Sword of Omens kind of comes up into the blister bubble there, but it's just kind of the way the bubble is shaped looks like the blade. It's kind of neat, though I will say it does kind of block the view of Lion-O just a bit, but overall I really like this. It's a very nice window box. It just fully showcases the figure and all of his accessories, so you can see everything right there in the package. But what I really love is the back of the box. Look at this beautiful artwork that we're presented with here. It's what we saw on the side of the shipper box, but here in full color. We got this great up-close look at Lion-O, the Cat Slayer there in the background, and then we've got a description of Lion-O down here on the bottom of the packaging. So overall, pretty nice look to the brand new packaging for this ThunderCats lineup. But now let's go ahead and rip this box open and take a look at the figure inside. Alright, we've got Lion-O outside of the packaging, so let's take a closer look at him. Let's start with the scale. Bring in the tape measure here. You can see he stands right at 7 inches tall. The top of his hair there goes almost all the way up to the full 7 inches in height. This is, of course, built around the same kind of style as Mattel's Masters of the Universe Classics line. So if you've been collecting the He-Man figures from Mattel, you're probably very familiar with the build and overall scale and feel of these guys. Lion-O definitely feels like he fits right at home with the rest of those figures, but Mattel's also doing some new things here with the ThunderCats line that we'll talk about as we're breaking down the figure. I want to go ahead and start things off by looking at the overall sculpt of this guy. I want to say that in the sculpt department, the Four Horsemen really nailed it. This is a fantastic looking figure. He's got a wonderful sculpt that does a really great job of just capturing that look of Lion-O just as we remember him out of the classic animated series. You can see there's a really great paint deco on his face as well. I love the way in particular the eyes were done and the eyebrows there. And then of course the way he's got that large poof of flowing red hair kind of billowing out to the side, just the way we always saw it in the cartoon. And does have a really nice kind of wash worked into the hair there as well that brings out all of the sculpted hair strands and everything. I really love that. So overall it's just a really great looking figure as far as the sculpt goes. Now the rest of the paint deco down the figure is pretty good for the most part. I love the bright blues that are used on the outfit that he's wearing there, and you can see there's a good amount of shading kind of worked in there with the sculpt. He's kind of got like this darker tan and then fading into the light tan on the wrists and the hands there, and then of course you got those nice blue boots there as well. The only place that I have a real issue with the paint deco is one of the places that I kind of feel like it counts the most. Right there on the ThunderCats logo on his belt, it is an absolute mess on my figure. Look at that. Look how sloppy that is. That is a bummer and a real shame. The only other place I kind of saw a little bit of paint scuff was on his fingers, but you can see not so bad there. The real issue is definitely with that ThunderCats logo being so sloppy. Now, that's probably just an issue with mine. Hopefully you guys don't have a lot of the same issues there, but that's one of those things that kind of shows the downside of having to buy a figure online. If this was in stores, I'd be able to pick out the one with the best paint job, and I couldn't do that here. I was just stuck with this really sloppy paint deco on his belt. Aside from that, I do think that the overall presentation on this guy is really nicely done. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get into the accessories in just a bit, but first, let's go ahead and cover the articulation. Lion-O does have some things that are slightly different than what we've seen in the past with the Masters of the Universe line. So here we go. That head is nice and ball jointed, so you can roll the head all the way around there, look left and right, up and down. And it does appear that the head is removable, just like with Masters of the Universe Classics. It's just on a nice ball joint there. It was actually really tight, but I was still able to pop it off by giving a little bit of force there. And there we go. I can just pop it right back on, and it's ready to go. We got the nice ball joints at the shoulders, so the arms can go up, forwards, backwards. We got swivels at the bicep, standard joint at the elbow. In fact, all of this right here, very much what we see in the Masters line. And then the wrists are the really nice kind of swivels there that also have the hinges. And you can see that on both hands there. So this is really nice and not something that a lot of the figures or most of the figures got in Masters of the Universe Classics. He does have the ab crunch there as well. We got the swivel at the waist. We got the nice ball joints at the thighs that allow the legs to move outwards, forwards, backwards. You can swivel at the thigh cut. You got nice tight knee joints there, just the single joints at the knees. You got boot cut swivels there. And then we've got the ankles, which you can move forwards and backwards, but also have a really nice rocker joint. Look at that. That is really nice and something that we haven't really seen a whole lot of in the past on the Masters figures. So you should be able to get some pretty good poses. All the articulation is fairly tight. His left foot's a little loose, but the right foot's more tight. And just you can get some really nice poses out of this guy. I love the articulation. So that part is also very well done. Now we're going to talk about accessories, and this is where I'm going to run into some complaints. Let's start with the obvious. Hanging right here at the side, you can see the claw shield with the Sword of Omens tucked into it. Now, that's really cool. It's awesome that we've got a Lion-O that can holster his Sword of Omens in the claw shield at a side, just like we've seen before in the past. The issue that I have with this is the fact that the Sword of Omens is sculpted into the claw shield. It is non-removable. Now, we can pop the actual claw shield off of the side of the figure. You can see it's just a little peg there, so it just kind of plugs right into the little blue hanging tab there. It's just all one solid sculpt though, so you can see it just pops right on there. I kind of also don't like that when you take it off, he's just always got this little peg jutting out of his side. I kind of feel like if they were going to do it like this, it should have been opposite, where the peg should have been here and he should have just had a small hole that we could plug it into if they wanted to go with the peg system. But instead, we've got this peg that's always sticking off of his hip, and that bugs me a little bit. But it bugs me even more that this right here is basically only used so that we can just display him in that one pose right there. We can't remove the sword. We can't store it there. It's always got this blue clip attached. It's a really nice sculpt. I mean, I love the sculpt of it. I just don't think that this right here was necessarily the right call to make. Now, he does feature interchangeable hands because we do have the actual claw shield that we can put on his arm. So that is really cool. And I think interchangeable hands was the right way to do this instead of clipping it over his hand like in the vintage toy line. So you can see it's a little more open, a little more full because this one actually is an interchangeable hand. And again, really nice sculpt on there. I love the first strokes and everything. The gold on the knuckles looks really nice. So we can actually remove the left hand here. It's just on a ball joint. Very easy to pop out of socket. Now, for some reason, he comes with two left hands. So normal hands, and we can just pop those in, and you can see there's not a whole lot of difference there. He's just got more of a grip with this particular left hand. I don't know exactly why we need a gripping hand there, because this is the hand for the claw shield. He actually uses his right hand to wield the Sword of Omens, so I don't really know what the purpose is of that extra hand, but it's there. And you can see he's just got a little peg inside the claw shield. We can just pop that on, and now we've got Lion-O displayed with that awesome, massive claw shield, and that looks really, really cool. So that brings us to the Sword of Omens, and we have two different versions, which is cool. We definitely need two. We've got the short version. This has got the Eye of Thundera on there. It's got the blade, the hilt part kind of pointing downwards. You can see it's shorter. It's really nicely detailed. I actually do like the colors here. The blade's got a bit more of a shine, while it's a bit more flat gray on the handle. We do have some nice greens worked in there. There's some metallics on the Eye of Thundera. So the blade looks really nice. And I did think this was kind of cool because we can actually holster that. There's room in there to holster that on the claw shield if you want to do that. So that's pretty sweet. It slides right in there. And then of course he would hold that in his right hand. And this right here, folks, is where I'm going to point out the other issue that I've got. His right hand has got way too wide of a grip for both versions of the sword, and I'll show you with the larger Sword of Omens in a bit. But look at how loose this is in his hands, and that is also because the hands are very gummy. Look at that. Look how soft and pliable his hand is. So I can probably squeeze this to kind of get a better grip, though the problem is it's so soft it always opens back up, and he just doesn't hold on to the sword as tightly as I'd like to. But we do have that smaller Sword of Omens there, and then of course we have the fully extended Sword of Omens. It's got the ThunderCats logo on there. It's very nicely painted on this. It looks really nice. Again, great deco with the kind of metallic silver on the blade, the flat gray on the handle, and then we can position that in his hand. And again, we got the same issue. Look at how loose this is. See, and this brings me back to, why did we get a interchangeable left hand with a tighter grip when this is where his claw shield goes? He really needed a tighter grip on his right hand so that he could actually hold on to the Sword of Omens better. So those are definitely my biggest complaints with this guy. Now, once you get the sword in his hand, you can kind of balance it there, and maybe not everybody's is as loose as mine is. I just got a really bad one, but with the wrist articulation and everything you've got there, it's pretty cool. You can pull off the holding the sword up over his head so he can yell "Thundercats ho!" You could put the Sword of Omens in front of his eyes so we can do sight beyond sight. So the articulation that was worked into the figure is really nice and definitely allows you for some of those iconic poses with Lion-O. Alright guys, it's comparison time. I want to start off by looking at some of the more recent Lion-O figures. Not that long ago, Bandai gave us a line of ThunderCats Classics figures, and we got two different versions of Lion-O, one that was 8 inches in scale and one that was 6 inches in scale. So you can see those standing on either side of Mattel's Lion-O, which is right there in the middle, and this will give you an idea of the difference in the sculpting and the overall style between these figures. Let's also go ahead and stand him alongside that vintage figure from LJN, the one we all grew up playing with, so we can really see how far ThunderCats figures have come. And here's another really quick Bandai comparison time. I wanted to show him standing alongside the version of Lion-O based on the newer cartoon series, just so you can see the difference between the two. So there you go, my friends. There's a look at the brand new Mattel ThunderCats Lion-O action figure. This was a really exciting line when it was initially announced, but now there's all this doubt in the air. We don't know if the line's going to continue now that Mattel is giving up the license. We might get more figures from Super 7, but as it is, we don't know yet, and that's kind of a bummer. I was really excited to finally get this figure, but then I was kind of let down by some of the features. I don't like that the claw shield that hangs on his side has a permanently attached Sword of Omens. I don't like that his right hand is so open that he can't even hold onto the Sword of Omens, and I wish the paint was a little bit cleaner. With those nitpicks out of the way, I gotta say the overall presentation is still very nice here. He's a solid action figure, he's got really nice articulation, and the horseman really nailed the sculpt. So he's almost perfect if it weren't for those few little things that bother me. Now, this guy sold out instantly on MattyCollector.com, and I have no idea if there is ever a reissue even coming. Maybe if Super 7 does indeed get the license, we will see reissues of this guy down the road, but as it is right now, your only chance of getting this guy is on the aftermarket. So, happy hunting, my friends! Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, then please hit that like button. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've got the same issues with your figure. And as always, hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on one of my toy reviews. Until next time, my friends.